Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pulp. I'm your host, Bob. I'm here with Maddie. Today we've got two special guests from Associated Bank. One is a return guest. That's Tracy Diekman. She's been with us talking about 401k, I believe, in the past, right? And then we also have Lora Olenchek joining us remotely. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about financial wellness. It's going to be a little bit of a different format, a little more presentation where we'll pepper in some questions and hopefully some answers. All right.
Yeah.
Don't want to put any pressure on you. But with that being said, I'm going to turn things over to Tracy so that she can educate us on financial wellness.
Thank you, Bob. So, like Bob said, my name is Tracy Diekman. My role with Associated Bank really is to provide financial wellness for businesses and organizations like yours. I've been doing this for about 7 years. The program itself has been around in existence for 20 years. We really took a holistic approach at it because when we realized that 43% of individuals did not have $400 in a savings account, there was a big need in our communities. So in this session, we are going to talk about financial wellness, what it really means, how you can achieve it in your everyday life. We're going to take a look at reducing financial stress, really how do we boost your confidence and develop a healthy money habit that helps support your long-term goals. So when I speak to employees in lunchrooms, break rooms, doing presentations, the biggest financial stressors today that I am hearing from most people really is the cost of living, right? So that is the number one concern for many households. Like utilities are rising, housing costs are rising, groceries, gas, etc. You name it, right? We're all feeling it.
We know it.
Yes, and because of that, we are living paycheck to paycheck, and many employees report difficulty covering their monthly expenses. And how am I supposed to build a savings account when I can't even pay the bills that are in front of me? So that lack of emergency savings is there. A larger percentage of Americans are unsure whether they could comfortably handle any unexpected expenses that arise, like car repairs, which they need to get to work, right? Medical bills that pop up, things like that. And then there's the debt burden. So we resort to credit cards, we resort to loans if we can't pay for those things. And if you did go to school and you're trying to better yourself and give yourself that education, we have the student loans too. Housing costs, whether you're renting or buying, affordability is a big challenge. More and more students, like myself, I have a 20-year-old son at home, and he's like, I would really like to move out in the next couple of years. So we did start looking at rent costs and things like that. And he's like, oh, how am I going to do this? Like, it's a big reality check, yeah. Right? And I feel like it's different. And then there's the healthcare expenses. So if unexpected healthcare medical costs arise, how do you pay that off? That's a big concern. And then, of course, we're supposed to save for retirement. So we can do all the wonderful things that we've dreamt about our entire life. So how do we do all those things, right? How do we provide that financial wellness that we really want? And when we talk about financial wellness, it's really feeling secure about our current financial situation and feeling confident about the future, right? What does the future hold for us? And how do we make choices that let us enjoy our everyday life when we're doing all those things, right? Mm-hmm. So financial wellness really does matter in the sense when we take a look at some statistics. So the American Psychological Association reported 72% of people were stressed about their finances, and that was largely driven by the pandemic. Income, job loss, security, rising costs, etc. The stress wasn't a long-term issue, but it has become reality for many. According to a Bright Plan survey, 91% of people report financial stress. So if I were to ask every single one of you, that listen to this podcast, if you've ever felt financial stress, I guarantee you the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel financial stress. My daughter got braces today.
Right. No, it's
all these things pop up in our lives.
It's an equal opportunity stressor.
Correct. Sure. Yeah. So if you don't plan for those things accordingly, debt builds up. So because of the financial stress, there's health implications on that too. In this slide, it just kind of represents like if you're stressed out, you have trouble sleeping, headaches, lack of energy and motivation. I know if I don't sleep well, I'm not my best the next day. You don't perform 100% at work, but then it doesn't stop there. If you have children at home or things to do after work, it just snowballs. It just continues, right? So with that being said, there's really 5 steps to help build financial wellness in your life. The first one is budgeting, debt management, emergency savings, setting financial goals for yourself, and that is one that most people don't do. And then, of course, planning for retirement, feeling financially secure in your future. And in order to do that, you really have to know what your vision is. What does financial success look like for you? You need to define what your goals are. Do you have short, medium, and long-term goals? And identify what matters most to you in retirement. Is it home ownership? Is it education? Do you love to travel? Do you want to be on a boat fishing? Just having financial independence. But it's really important with that to know where you stand today. Assess your current financial situation. Write down your income, write down your expenses and your saving. Figure out where you have areas to improve on. And you don't have to have the answer today, right? But actually knowing what's in front of you helps you take control of it. Track those spending habits, distinguish between needs and wants in your life. Identify opportunities that are going to help you reduce those unnecessary expenses. Make sure that your budget and your goals align, and then reevaluate those throughout your life. It's going to change, right?
Sure.
It never, ever stays the same. And when your children are young, they tend to take all of your money, right?
That's the truest thing I've heard on this podcast. That's absolutely true.
So making sure you reevaluate along the way is really important. So when we talk about creating a budget, really, it is very common that people feel overwhelmed with money in general. So the first step is really to pause and get a clear picture of what your situation is. So financial stress, like we said, it often feels bigger when everything is swirling around in your head and you don't really know where you're at and there's no plan in place. So a good way to start is to list what money is coming in each month. Your income, list your essential expenses, list those debts, and start with the minimum payment first. I know if people have credit card debt, they look at that big number and they're like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to pay this off? And it can feel very, very overwhelming. So trying to solve everything at once is like the worst. So you want to focus on the most urgent issues that you can first and foremost, like paying your mortgage, paying your rent. How do I avoid getting a late fee, which is then going to affect my credit? And then in return, interest rate down the road, and I'm going to have to pay more in the long run. So making sure that you don't have a complicated budget immediately, but having that clarity is usually more important than having the perfection of having it all paid off.
Does Associated have any resources, like a physical budget that you could just print out, or like a worksheet, that you can fill in? I figured.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Yes. And in fact, one of my slides is that, and I'm happy to email it over so you can share it with everybody too.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
A really helpful mindset too when you are talking about budgeting is, let's organize before we optimize. So you don't need a perfect financial plan today, but you do need an accurate snapshot of where things stand. So budgeting really is one of the most powerful tools there is to get out and stay out of debt. So when debt is on the rise, it increases your financial stress, which is often like just chaotic, right? So when you budget, you're more in control of your finances. It increases your confidence, like I said in the beginning, and it brings you more peace of mind. So some of the most common budget busters out there are eating out. Like I know myself, like if my family of 4 goes out to eat, it's about $100 every time, like between that $80 and $100. And if you don't budget for it, and
up on you.
And every single time I think to myself, oh, this is really nice. And then I'm like, oh, I could have bought groceries for the whole week with what I just spent on going out to eat. So even though it's a feel good, is it realistic? Is it within your budget? Subscriptions, we forget about those. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, which is the online shopping. Use the 24-hour rule. In fact, I even heard on the radio, use a week rule. If you keep it in your cart for a whole week, and if you still need it, then purchase it. But just not doing that impulse shopping. And I think more and more people are doing online versus hanging out at the mall all day. So upgrading, like phones, do you need the latest technology? The fear of missing out. So just because your neighbor's got a new car, do you need a new car? Things like that.
Super realistic, I mean, just looking at that list, like, yep. And those subscriptions too, you don't think about them until you look back at your pay statement, and then you're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize how much that was adding up over time.
Yeah,
yes.
That's something that I feel like that really became a financial impactor over the last 2 decades that didn't exist before. That number of subscriptions you could sign up for and forget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Like car washes. There's
You used to subscribe to things that showed up in your mailbox. Now it just exists in the ether,
Right. Traveling. I think that's a big budget buster for many. Like you think that you have enough set aside for vacation, and then you go on vacation and you're like, oh, I really did not budget well for my trip.
Yes.
So throughout life, there's different reasons to review your budget. Just on average, do it at least once a year. I recommend doing it every time you get paid, or at least once a month. But at least do it during some major life changes, like if you're switching jobs or if you're getting married. On the flip side, it didn't work out. If you have a growing family, that's going to change your budget drastically. If you have a side hustle that took off and you have additional income, congratulations, by the way. But all reasons why you should really look at your budget and review it. So when we talk about budgeting, this is the worksheet, by the way. So there's really, if you look at our worksheet, what I love about it is we do have financial goals on there, which I'll talk about here a little bit too. But really, just like the days of the week flying by, it's easy to forget new items that might have been overlooked in your budget. So I do like the additional items section on here. It gives room for subscriptions that we just talked about, things like that. Just a good tip too, when we're talking about subscriptions, is to put it on a credit card, I suggest, versus a debit card for your own security reasons. Sure. But having it in one place is easy for you to review too. So, and the reason why I say that is I know somebody that forgot that they signed up for a subscription service, and they totally forgot about it. They were getting charged $40 a month. And this went on for a good 2 years. And most financials will only let you go back for a dispute 60 days. So
it's a good reminder for people to do their checkbooks, because I don't think a lot of people do that anymore.
They do not. They do not. So when you're sitting down and you're looking at this budget, have your statements in front of you. Have your credit card statements in front of you. Have your checking account statement. And most people don't get a paper statement anymore, but you can look at it with your mobile app or your desktop, just to make sure that, the numbers match. You actually are paying what you signed up for. You are utilizing that service still. And if debt is on here as well in part of your budget, can you call around to get better rates for yourself? Have you added in irregular expenses, which we're going to talk about too? So making sure that putting money away for your savings goals is part of your budget too. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to plan for it.
Do you recommend like the allocating like every dollar to a box kind of thing, or what do you suggest in terms of that?
No, I do for sure. Just because I always tell people if you wait to start saving until you have extra money, you're never going to start because we don't. Like if we look at our app and we're like, oh, I have $500 in there. What can I do with this? Like we're just trained to be that way. So you have to be disciplined to create a behavior and to start that savings habit for yourself. Excuse me. So when I mentioned the unexpected and expected before, so no matter how solidified your budget is, there's going to be things that pop up, right? And arise out of nowhere. Life happens and it's challenging to stick to a plan for us. So that is why planning for the expected and unexpected is really important to incorporate into your budget. So while we may be always able to prepare perfectly, we can weather a storm when it does arise. So for example, last fall, I had to replace my tires on my vehicle. Our deep freezer went out at home and my washer and dryer, both kaput. So had I not been saving for these emergencies, I would have had to have resorted to like credit cards or something like that to do that. So reducing this financial burden for yourself for preparing for some of this unexpected stuff really is goal. So we know that stuff is going to come up. We know that we're going to have to replace appliances eventually. We know that we're going to have to do maintenance on our vehicles. Those are things that you can kind of plan for. And then the unexpected, like nobody plans on getting sick. Nobody plans on being in a car accident. Nobody plans on somebody stealing from them. But unfortunately, sometimes they do happen. So just a good activity for you guys to do is just to write down 3 to 5 things that may potentially pop up within the next 1 to 5 years and put that as part of your savings plan as well and call it unexpected or expected because that way you're prepared for those things. So when we talk about budgeting, it is really important to put purpose behind every dollar, kind of what you had mentioned, right? So I am a big promoter in establishing financial goals that do align with our values and our budget. So when you tie your goals to a budget, you create purpose behind it. It no longer becomes about just writing stuff down and tracking money. It becomes more intentional, which means it's going to be more meaningful to you, right? So instead of asking yourself, can I afford this? Or saying to yourself, costs too much. We have this joke in our family. My husband's dad, he grew up with his dad saying, no, it costs too much. We can't afford it. So that's like our joke all the time to each other. But the reality is that's a mindset, right? So you kind of grow up thinking it costs too much. I can't afford that. And a lot of people are that way. So refraining to asking yourself, is this purchase going to set me back in my goal or help me move forward, is really beneficial in setting your budget. So when we talk about motivation a little bit, so I've seen it in myself and I've seen it in others. When motivation is on the rise, you're more excited about it, right? You're more apt to work towards your goals. So if saving for a dream vacation is really what you want to save for. Every single time you put money into that account, you're going to be excited about it, right? It's like, oh, we're, so much closer to taking that vacation that we've been dreaming of. So whatever that financial goal is that you have that you want to work on, you know, think of it as a goal. Change your mindset on it. So when we talk about those goals, I encourage you guys to really think about a short, medium, and long-term goal for yourself, and list them in order of importance as well. It's important to rank them, to give them a timeline, and usually during this presentation, I would have you write down your goals. So I encourage you guys to write down 3 goals for yourself. 1 short, 1 medium, and 1 long-term. Some good examples would maybe be saving for a wedding or paying off a car loan. Maybe it's building an emergency savings for yourself, or saving for a vacation, like I said, or a down payment on a house would be a good example too. And then once you have that goal, I like to create a SMART action plan for it. So this would be a good example of what that looks like. So this particular goal that I have is to save $1,200 in emergency savings fund. It's measurable because I'm going to put $100 out of every single paycheck in there, and I'm going to set it up so it's automatic, out of sight, out of mind, from my checking to my savings. It's achievable because based on my budget that I just did, $100 per paycheck is realistic for me. And then having an emergency fund aligns with the financial stability I need. And then is it timely? So you always want to set a timeline for your goals. So this particular one is 6 months because this person gets paid bi-weekly. So using this in other areas of your life is really helpful too. Because a lot of times we set a New Year's resolution or something like that, and a goal without a plan really is a wish, right? It's a thought at that point, because the reality is they usually don't come true unless we really have a plan in place. So when we talk about saving money, it creates crucial financial safety, right? Like we just talked about. It reduces our stress. It provides the peace of mind to handle those unexpected events like medical emergencies or job loss. So building a savings cushion does enable that financial flexibility and freedom. It allows for opportunities without that anxiety and having that debt there. So it's a form of self-care, right, for ourselves, that improves our emotional well-being, and it fosters a more positive outlook on life. So having that, once you do the budget, the kind of rule of thumb is to take all of your expenses times 3 to 6 months. And that is ultimately what your goal is to have in a savings account for yourself. And I see this too often, if somebody loses their job or something, then they don't have that safety net to fall on. And then we take a look at other ways to help. Like maybe there's a home equity line of credit or something like that we can do for them. But ideally, having that savings net for yourself is key.
Right. So important.
Yes. So now I am going to pass this off. We're going to talk more on retirement. I have Lora here that's going to help tell you why it's so important to save for retirement, and some key ways to do so as well.
So, yeah, people get a little overwhelmed when they start talking about planning for retirement. But as an investment professional, I always say, hey, we work hard for our money. Why not make our money work hard for us? Because that's what we're going to ask it to do in retirement. And the big question is always, how do you do that? You guys are lucky enough here that you have a 401k. And I always tell people to really start early. And even if it's your pocket change, it doesn't matter how much it is. It just helps to start get in the mentality that I'm going to save some money for retirement. It also helps to set a goal. I think Tracy said talked a lot about setting goals throughout all different kinds of financial wellness, but for your retirement, it might seem like it's a long way away, but it's good to say, okay, I'm going to give up that sassy coffee drink every week so that I can contribute $25 a month to my 401k. That's a great start. Doing something like that just really helps you set a goal and work towards something. Next, we always say take advantage of your company match. You guys offer 50% up to 6% of your salary, and you really want to take advantage of that. If at all possible, you want to add that 6% of your salary to get the full benefit. And then you're going to have an immediate 50% return on your investment because the company is going to match 50% of what you give. Even if it's a stretch goal, try and see what you can do. Even if it's only, you're starting at 1%, it's a place to start, and you're still going to get 50% of that matched as well. You know, we talked about paying down debt, and that obviously helps and is something you want to focus on. But I would say that it is important to add to your retirement when you have a company match like this, because it is a long-term investment and you're missing that 50% opportunity. If you say, well, I'm not going to do it right now, I'm going to do it in 3 years, you've missed the opportunity to take advantage of that 50% company match for 3 years. One of the easiest, this might sound overwhelming. It might be like, that's a lot for me to think about. But the key here, again, is that you can meet with an advisor on a regular basis. So maybe you're not saving at all right now. Associated through the 401k plan in our partnership, we'll meet with employees at no cost, and you have a resource to use here as an advisor. Maybe you think, I don't know anybody in that field, or I feel silly talking to somebody. Start with the 401k rep, and it'll be clear how you can do things, and you can get guidance along the way without feeling overwhelmed. If we also think about an advisor, it might talk, there's things in your 401k that you might not know about, Roth versus pre-tax. This is a question everybody gets, and it is very personalized to know which one is the right one for you. So again, there, talking to the advisor can help with that. But again, what we want is we want you to start early, get money in there, because if we look here on the next page, you're going to see that the power of compounding can be pretty powerful. It was Einstein's ninth wonder of the world, actually, that the power of compounding interest could be beneficial. Can you guys take me to the next page, please? So as I always like to say, like, I want to talk about further discussing how to make your money work for you. And the power of compounding is a way that you can do that. So this example, there's a lot of bar graphs on here, but the slide illustrates the power of how to compound your money. And that just means, how do we make our money work for us? So in the first set of boxes here, you can see that it assumes, if we look at the gray bar is the amount of money that you as the employee would save. And then if we go up to the blue field, that corresponds with where your employer match would come from. And then the green one talks about the power of investing or compounding interest. We are assuming, as you can see down here on the bottom, that you earn $40,000, you have a 2% annual salary increase, and the employee match is 50% of 6% of your salary up to that. And this assumes you've invested money for 30 years with a 7% interest return, which actually in today's market is pretty reasonable and attainable. It's not something that is unrealistic. So I'm gonna just go to, let's say, the column here, which says the 6% match without, or 6% salary deferral without match, and then 6% with match. So this is where you would be able to take advantage of the pro-con match to the extreme. If you look at here, it assumes that you as an employee are going to put in 6% of your salary. And if you look here, that assumes that your contributions are about $97,000, over that 30 year. Then we're going to keep in this column, actually, let's look at this one and say that also means that your company is going to match 50% of that up to 6%. So this blue is what the company match is going to be, or that 48,500 roughly. So your money works for you. You're not doing anything, and you might have some bumps in the road here, but over that 30-year time period, if you have an average 7% growth, you are actually going to have an ending value of over $427,000 in that example. And this is just a way of letting your money work for you. And yes, you have to continue to invest. And yes, you have to leave your money alone. We always say you have to diversify it, keep it invested, and you're going to watch it grow. This is something that I think is really fun to do with your advisor, is to sit down and say, oh, well, what if I add a little bit more now in every year? So maybe you can go up to that 10% match, or even if there's times when maybe it's a little tighter and you're having some difficulties, you can cut back a little bit and maybe still take advantage of a match with your 3%. All I like to do is say, the compounding of your investment, which just means that your money is going to make money, is going to be the greatest value that can get applied to your retirement fund. And staying invested and staying diversified in there is something that these types of numbers can become reality for you. The more you save, obviously, the greater those numbers are going to be. But if you start early, you actually can maybe invest a little longer than that 30 years. But the key here is I really encourage people to take advantage of your employee match. And this just shows you that power of being able to do that in the market and what benefit it does make for you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
I like
very
the
helpful.
visual, yeah.
If we then go beyond maybe retirement planning a little bit, I like to talk about this or other retirement planning benefits, because I don't think a lot of people realize that there are other ways you can save for retirement beyond your traditional IRA or 401k. And one of them, believe it or not, is an HSA account. So if you have a high deductible medical plan out there, which I know you guys do here, and if you have an HSA account that you can save in, it is actually even a better tax advantage savings account than a direct retirement account. This is a health savings account, so it is used for medical purposes, but it has what we call a triple tax advantage, just meaning that you get to put your dollars in there tax-free, they grow tax-free, and you can actually withdraw them tax-free as well. So it's even better than your 401k retirement, because those you don't always get to withdraw tax-free if you do it on a pre-tax basis. But you also get to roll this over. Once you put money in there, it never expires, so to speak. You can use it forever, and it can ultimately become a medical savings account for retirement. And that's how a lot of people are looking at it today. Since it has a triple tax advantage, you can put your money in there, and maybe you don't need it today, but use it in the future. Basically in retirement, it is said that people are going to have $185,000 worth of medical bills, which is a lot of medical bills. Over 70% of your medical expenses actually happen in retirement. So you're going to need more for medical expenses than you need now. And the HSA is a great way to save for that. You will find that a lot of people will actually pay out of pocket for medical expenses today so that they can grow these accounts and use them at a later time in life. So we just like to keep that in mind. I do have information on where you can find extra for all of these, because there is some detailed stuff that goes with each one of them. And of course, all of them have little caveats. Like the HSA account, for example, you can't pull it out till after 65 if you're using it for other medical expenses. But at some point, some of these also can convert to other retirement benefits, not just like the medical expense right there. The the Savers tax credit. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that if you are at certain income levels, you actually get a tax credit for saving to your 401k. And I'm pointing that out because a lot of people don't take advantage of that. And it's a great way to save and then just get that dollar for dollar back on your tax. These are lower income brackets, but definitely take a look at it and see if it's something that you may qualify for. A 529 account. These last two on here are actually a little bit different because they just had some updates to regulation. A 529 account now, if you didn't use it all for education expenses, can actually be used or converted to a Roth IRA. So I think that is pretty powerful because you don't, I know of some people who have kids that got scholarships, or some people didn't pull out as much as they could have when they were using their 529. It's a great way to further save if you don't need it off for education purposes. You can keep it in place and it can always be in there for education purposes. But if you pull it out, the Secure Act 2.0 just allowed this to go into a Roth IRA. Again, there are some limitations on it, like the 529 account has to be in effect for at least 15 years, which actually isn't that hard to do if you're starting these when the kids are young. But great way to continue on a retirement savings if you're not using that for education purposes. And then finally, the newest type of investment account, I would say, that is out there is the Trump account that has come around this year. And it really is a retirement account for children under 18. There's actually a pilot program going on right now that allows a $1,000 contribution for children that were born between those dates on there. You can see January 1st of 25 to December 31st of 28. The government will actually fund $1,000 for children born in that time. And all you have to do is go and fill out a form there where I have the link in there. It takes about 5 minutes to fill it out, and you'll need a social security number and I think a birth certificate. You need a couple things for that child, but it's a very quick form to fill out to make sure you qualify. I'm also told that that's going to happen automatically when they apply for a social security number. I don't know if that's true or not, but you could double check here and take advantage of that Trump account that's out there too. So beyond a 401k or maybe even that traditional Roth IRA or traditional IRA, these are 4 other ways that you can save money associated with retirement savings and accounts that are that go with them. I would also say that as you continue to look at these, you can talk about these with that advisor that I was talking about and ask about if you qualify for them. They can certainly assist you with all of that. But I think the most important thing that I always give advice on for people when they are looking to invest is start early, diversify your investments, and stay invested. So in conclusion, I would say that the key to investments is really to stay diversified in your investments. Start early if you can, because the more you invest and the earlier you invest, the more your money is going to work for you. But these are 4 different accounts that you can talk to your advisor about again and see if it makes sense for you to do. Investing and taxes are all very personalized, and so you want to make sure that you're getting the right advice for yourself when you invest in these.
Thank you so much, Laura. Yeah, and with that, I think that's probably a wrap on today's episode. We want to thank Laura for joining us, as well as Tracy, whose last name I pronounced incorrectly at the start, Tracy Dykman. Laura Olenchek, thank you both so much. All the information you gave us was so valuable.
Oh, yes.
And we appreciate your time. So with that, until next time, Proconians, stay safe, stay curious, and keep making Procon great.